Society Radio presents a Chris from Brooklyn bonus content fun time. Here's your host, Chris from Brooklyn.
Run you your retro. 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 Run you your retro.
What up, guys? I'm just putting this out real quick because I figured we should have some YouTube exclusive content this week, and I've been putting these out little by little, but it's my old audio interviews that I did a few years ago. I'm starting to do some again. You just saw the James Lindsay interview that I put up, but this is one with Kevin Eastman. He was a creator of the Ninja Turtles. It was a huge thrill for me. I've been a fan of the Ninja Turtles. I love the current series that IDW puts out. I love the whole thing. I've read probably most of the books. Obviously I watched the cartoon as a kid. I really enjoyed talking to somebody who essentially, I say it in the interview, he basically created the action adventure equivalent to Mickey Mouse. So it's an audio only interview because it's an older one that we did, but we're re-releasing it right now live for YouTube. Hope you enjoy it. It's me talking to Kevin Eastman. And if you do enjoy this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. You know, whenever we put out new content, we put out content pretty consistently nowadays. So check that out. Hit the subscribe button. And you can always check out full episodes of the show here on the channel if you're just here for the Kevin Eastman interview. Or you can go to anywhere you get podcasts and get the audio version of the show. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms. Follow us at HS Radio Show on Twitter, reddit.com/r/High Society Radio. When you're there, you can join the Discord. We got an Instagram. We got everything going. But without further ado, enjoy the interview. This is me talking to Kevin Eastman. Thanks.
Boom. You know, sometimes I feel like that intro is way too epic for me because I'm just one guy sitting here. This is the High Society Radio presents Chris from Brooklyn bonus content fun time. If you're not already doing so, follow the show at HS Radio Show on Twitter, High Society Radio on Instagram, Facebook.com/High Society Radio. Go to the Reddit subreddit. Tell me I suck. Tell Stanley he sucks. And then, it's reddit.com/r/High Society Radio. Don't tell Johnny he sucks. He's a sensitive boy. Also, a new movement has sprung up, if you don't know about this, from our Patreon account. That's patreon.com/High Society Radio if you want to donate to the show. But a movement that I like to call Spite the Centaur. Why? Because he hates it. I'm not saying that. You guys are saying that. We've got new Patreon donations because Stanley doesn't want them. I find that hilarious. Hysterical. But anyway, on to the show. This is an interview with Kevin Eastman. It's a kind of a short one. It's only about 20 minutes, a little less actually. Kevin Eastman, as you probably know, is the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he's working with IDW Comics, who makes the current Ninja Turtle comic. He's doing his own comic called Los Angeles. The artwork looks pretty good. If you like the old Mirage stuff, I'm sure you'll like that. I got a chance to talk to him, and actually, I almost fucked up. My equipment here malfunctioned. I almost didn't get the interview. I had to cancel my time because they were like, listen, we can only give you 5 minutes because I was late calling in. And I was like, listen, I'll just reschedule for next month when next time Kevin's doing a press day. His niece, who handles all his press, emails me maybe 20 minutes later, says, somebody's sick. I'm like, okay, somebody's sick. I'll take their slot. So that's at about 3 o'clock. We do the 20-minute interview. I would have left my house at 3:30 on the dot, but I just started getting ready. So I'm getting ready to leave my house for work at 4, a little late, and gallons of water just started pouring out of my fucking ceiling all over my house. So fucking up this interview saved my fucking ass, because if I would have left, the woman who lives above me, who I'll get to in a second, wouldn't have been home to notice the leak that was running into my apartment until 7 o'clock. So that means from 4 to 7, and I'm talking about 5 gallons of water a minute. I filled up my garbage can in 15 minutes, maybe 7, 8 times, and it was coming out of different places. All over. It was disgusting. It was in my face. It was just brown water from above, like in between the floors of my apartment building. Disgusting. Because listen to what this lady did. Our hot water was turned off to fix the boiler in the building. So this is a grown woman, a 40-year-old fucking woman, turns on her tub It doesn't turn on. So rather than close the valve, she just fucking went to work thinking, hey, I'm not there. Why would they ever fix the water? Because that's the kind of self-centered cunt you get, and that's why we hate gentrification on this show. Because she's just some 40-year-old yuppie cunt. I didn't even get an apology. Not a fucking apology. It's been days. Not a note, nothing. Mind you, I lost a bunch of kitchen equipment. I'm a fucking chef. I need that shit. I have to rebuy all that stuff. I'm getting renter's insurance after this, I'll tell you that much. But anyway, back to the Kevin Eastman interview. We talked a lot about the Ninja Turtles, the current series. We talked about the previous series, an old Image comic series that most people don't know about. I would recommend anybody going to get that. If you could find it, the Image Comics run of the Ninja Turtles. Donatello becomes a cyborg. Splinter gets turned into a man-bat-like creature. Raphael becomes the head of the Foot Clan. And I guess I just spoiled the whole series for you. But whatever. It's still dope. It's super violent. Great black and white imagery. It kind of has a Frank Miller, Sin City feel to it. It's a great old book. It actually kept me interested in reading Ninja Turtle comics because it came out around when I was in junior high school, when I was just starting to kind of move away from cartoons and stuff. It was the right time for me. But so obviously, the Kevin Eastman interview, it was a thrill for me. The Ninja Turtles were a part of all of our childhoods. But another reason why it was a big deal to me is because the first interview I ever conducted in my entire life was over the phone with Joe Simon, the co-creator of Captain America. It was back when my mom was just a regular run-of-the-mill alcoholic who could still get things done before she became a drug addict. She organized all these meetings. I interviewed one of the editors at DC Comics. She took me to an art gallery of old Joe Simon comics. He did these romance comics in the 70s. To meet him, she talked to his literary agent. They thought it was like a cute thing that a kid was going to interview, Joe Simon. I thought it was crazy because I was in an art gallery and there was comic books on the wall. But he didn't show up, so I ended up talking to him on the phone for about an hour about comic books. And it was like one of the biggest thrills of my life as a little kid. I must have been in third grade. And I don't know, he sent me a personalized, which is now gone. It's like lost to the fucking wind because, that's just how life is. But he sent me a personalized letter also of all the characters he had designed in the 50s, the Newsboy Legion, the Guardian from Superman, Captain America, personalized note, and signed it. That's something I really wish I had from my childhood that I don't. But it always stuck with me. And I guess when I was researching this interview, it kind of made me think about that again. So that was a great feeling. But yeah, so without any further bullshit, here goes my interview with Kevin Eastman, co-creator of the Ninja Turtles. All right, I'm talking to Kevin Eastman, co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing super great. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for doing the interview. And I just wanted to, I guess I kind of want to get right into it with, obviously I'm in my early 30s, and the Ninja Turtles is a great part of my childhood. And it's kind of, you're 31 years in, you pretty much have created the Mickey Mouse equivalent in action adventure. Does it get tiring to you at any point?
Not at all. I mean, I know it sounds, there's, I started in the business. So it was my love and passion and dream to write and draw and tell comic stories, and I was one of the few lucky ones that actually got to create something that's given me not only the best job on the planet, a dream come true where I'm literally writing and drawing comics for a living and paying my bills, but it's it's gone on so much further than that. But in between turtle stuff, which I love dearly, and I'm having as much fun working on the turtle stuff today as I did back in the original days, 31 years ago, working with Peter Laird. But I've had the chance to I bought Heavy Metal magazine and published lots of different kinds of comics. I've done a lot of my own creative stories, from Melting Pot to Fistful of Blood to many other stories, and again but all
you
of
owned,
that is really thanks.
You owned Tundra Turtles, Press briefly, right? You had the company Tundra.
Yep. Tundra was also a dream. Was a great platform to publish other people like myself that couldn't necessarily fund their own personal creations because they were spending so much time drawing, say, other people's characters to pay for their mortgage or raise their families and stuff. So when I founded Tundra, it was to mainly focus on properties that creators owned and came up with themselves, and were looking for a home to get them out there. So
now,
that was the dream of Tundra. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, do you think maybe it was just like an early thing with that? Because I mean, that's the kind of the dream of anybody, like to kind of create their as I'm a small business owner myself, so I understand that dream of like trying to get something out there and create a brand. And I'm just kind of curious, do you think, because like that's kind of the direction Image has gone, and even companies like IDW, they have a lot. I mean, obviously a lot of their stuff is licensed, but there's a lot of creator-owned stuff. Like there's like more of a marketplace for that now. Do you think maybe you were just a little early?
Well, with a company like Tundra, I think it was a bit early in that I think in the kinds of material that I liked was maybe a little too offbeat or a little too edgy in some cases. But overall, I think that was although Tundra might have been a little early to have the success that it could have had, at the same time, it was the way the whole market was heading. Not only European comic books and the kinds of stories that they were writing and doing, and pushing the boundaries, and bringing the manga influence and what Asian comics were doing. But here in the States, most of all, it was this perfect storm of all these influences coming in, and this drive for creators to fulfill a lifelong dream, much like we do with the Turtles, which is come up with an idea that they personally love, that they personally want to draw, that they're excited about, and hopefully that translates into enough sales to allow that series to keep going. So I think it was the way the market was heading anyway, and I'm super excited about companies like Image and other smaller publishers that emerged out of that, and Dark Horse, of course, as well, with their Legend brand and their creator-owned stuff that they do. And IDW, I'm the most proud of, and I've known Ted and all the guys over there for a long time. And go ahead. Yeah.
No, you have an exclusive deal with them now. You're going to be producing other series there, as well as the Turtles.
Yeah, I have an exclusive deal with them, and I've been working with them for 4 years on just mostly Turtle stuff, but we signed a deal to continue the Turtle work, but do lots of other new stuff like this next project I have called Los Angeles, which is kind of a post-apocalyptic warriors kind of story. And
the art is very heavy metalish. Also, I know like that's your kind of you're a big fan of that work and the older heavy metal stuff. I took a look at some of the promo work.
Oh, totally! It's definitely a love poem for me to heavy metal, and I co-created it with a longtime collaborator, Simon Bisley. We came up with the idea together, but Simon's providing covers, and I'm doing all the interior writing and drawing. So 6 issues starting later this year.
That sounds great. I actually wanted to ask you, because the IDW series, which is great, I'm a little behind because I like the comics I'm really into. I like to wait for the trades, but I obviously I know what happened in issue 44. But I was wondering what made you guys what made you decide to go kind of back to the comics, because it's been years since there was like an ongoing Turtle series, right?
Yeah, it's always been Image Comics did a wonderful series that actually was never completed, but it was awesome. There's been other, Peter Laird did a Mirage black and white series that was awesome. When IDW got the license for the rights early on, they brought me in to meet with Tom Waltz, and when he showed me what he was doing, it got me truly excited to get back involved in the series. I had that same thrill that I had back in the old days of working with Pete. So when they started a new series, I jumped in with both feet, and thankfully the fans have really dug what we've been doing and have been supporting it, and allowing us to be able to really push the boundaries, like the City Fall series with the Dark Leo, and right up through issue 44, which is the start of a new arc, which is going to be dark and edgy, and there's some great stuff. I hope fans will stick and wait to see what we're doing next, because there's some pretty cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And I was actually going to ask you about the Image series. I had actually heard you guys weren't big, because I loved those books, and it actually kept me interested in the Turtles. I was turning about 12, 13 when those came out, and it really kept me very interested in reading Ninja Turtle comics. And I had heard that you and Peter weren't a huge fan of that series, and I'd love to see a collected edition. And there was like some fans made an ending, and I'd love to see like a collected edition, and I'd personally be the first one online to buy that.
No, awesome. No, I appreciate that. In fact, I was a huge fan of what Gary Carlson and Frank Fort were doing. I thought the series was was genius. I loved what they were doing, and they put a lot of great edge in there and some great characters. And of course, you can't go wrong with Eric Larson covers. And I know it was originally the idea was to go 26 issues, and I think they stopped at issue 23. And like you said, I did see the fan ending to it, but I know that IDW and Eric and myself have all had that same conversation, that we would love to find a way to get Gary and Frank back on to finish the last couple issues, and then republish the whole thing in some either repackage it and put it out as color editions and then collect them, or do some big collected. But it's definitely on everybody's radar. We're all fans of it. And, if all the stars align, hopefully we'll see that in the near future. I'd love to see that completed and see it out there. I truly enjoyed that series.
Yeah, I definitely like the way they incorporated some of the lesser-known Image characters like Night Watchman and Kid Galahad, like those kind of fringe characters. It was great. I really enjoyed that series when it was coming out.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
There was something I actually kind of wanted to ask you, because the Ninja Turtle started as this kind of like not like a parody, but like you know what I mean, like a parody or a satire of these like ninja comics, like the Frank Miller style, the Daredevil stuff at that time. And I was kind of wondering, like, was there a point during that 80s series, particularly the syndicated one? The CBS one was a little more together, but like, was there a point where you're like, all right, now this is becoming a parody? Like, is there a point where you kind of got annoyed at it?
No. It was actually. A couple things happened around what we were trying to do with the first issue was. I was a huge fan of Dave Sim, and what Dave Sim was when he started publishing Cerebus, the Aardvark, in 1976. He started out drawing it. He's got this little Aardvark barbarian running around back in the Conan period, drawn like Barry Smith was drawing Conan the Barbarian back in the 70s. And it had a lot of parody in it, but it was telling a very sort of straightforward story, and it grew into, he did 300 issues of it, and it was just a fantastic, legendary series. But he was a big self-publisher, and I loved the idea. I said, Pete and I basically agreed. We said, look, let's put all the favorite things that we love about comic books, every Jack Kirbyism, every Frank Miller, all the favorite, the animal characters like Cerebus and Jack Kirby's mutant animal characters from Commandy, New Mutants. Let's put these all in a blender and do a single issue, which is sort of our tribute in a parody format of what we loved about comic books and what we wanted to see in a comic book. So the first issue was sort of the strongest parody issue, but we never thought there'd be a second issue or any other issues. And when orders started coming in, they said, well, when are you going to do a second issue? From the start of issue 2, we started doing original stories, less parody, but at the same time derivative, in that we would pull different influences. There was a little mad scientist, there was a little Star Wars, there was a little superhero, there was a little, everything sort of was put in this blender. And as the issues went on, it was less and less parody and more original stories. By the time we got to issue 7, 8, and 9, they were pretty much the stories are almost writing themselves, so that we had set the Turtles on a path and a trajectory that we were telling the stories that were true to the Turtle universe, and there really weren't parodies of any other mainstream comic book. So, but I never, I think, creativity is influence, whether you're, a painter, a musician, a movie maker. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, and we're inspired by the things that inspired us to enter the field we get into anyway. So there's always some element of influences that we had when we were younger. It's just, try to make it as original as you can, and keep true to yourself, and write things that you like and enjoy.
Well, that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, because I watched the Turtle Power documentary to kind of prepare for this interview, and I know you guys were protective of the property, and like you were doing things that for yourself. Like I'm kind of curious what your thought process was when you finally, like, obviously there was the payday, but like just thinking about licensing the stuff for the first time and like kind of not letting it be just yours anymore. Like what was going through your head?
Well, it was the most important thing was having the ability and the right to do that. I mentioned the shoulders of giants we stood on, and guys like Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby, created and / co-created most of the Marvel Universe, and that the nature of the business at that time was work for hire. So everything that he created, he had a hand in creating, just about every major Marvel character that's out there making billions today. but never got any, he never received any benefits or never had any control over his characters, never had a say of what could be done or not done with them. So when we self-published the Turtles, we knew the value. We knew how precious it was to us. We never thought we want to protect our rights because it could be a movie, or it could be this, or it could be that. We just thought about Jack Kirby, and he said, this is a comic book, and we want to protect our rights. These are our characters. We own them, and we want to protect our rights to these characters. So that was kind of step one. And then when we were approached to do them as animated shows or movies or cartoons and all that stuff, because we owned and controlled everything Turtles, it was completely and totally 100% up to us if we wanted to do those kind of deals or not. And the only way we would do those kind of deals, the only way we agreed to do those kind of deals, is because we had full say. We had full approval over the scripts. We had full approval over the look of the characters. We had full approval over the final designs of the toys. We were truly blessed and truly lucky that we had complete control over our characters. So everything anybody saw the Turtles, especially in the early 10, 15 years, everything that happened with the Turtles was with my approval and Pete's approval and our blessing, and usually, our complete involvement. We were involved in all 300 cartoon shows and all the movies, and every year for the new line of toys, we would design half the toy line in our studio, Pete and I and some of the artists that we hired. So yeah, we were in control, and everything that we allowed to happen with them, we allowed to happen with them. The benefit was we made money on them, and it wasn't some big corporation making all the money. We made the money, and we were very, very lucky, very blessed.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing to have never sold. I know you at one point briefly sold your right to them to Peter, but then you guys reformed a partnership at some point. Is that correct?
No, actually, basically, the timeline is in the late 90s. I sold controlling rights, creative rights to Peter, and I retained partial ownership of the Turtles. Then, I think 3 or 4 years later, I ended up selling out the rest of the interest I had in the Turtles. So then Pete was in 100% control of the Turtles for the next 5 or 6 years or so. And then eventually Pete wanted to retire, so he sold everything to Viacom. And that was about 4 years ago. And it was around that time. So I had no rights in it at that time, but when Viacom bought the rights to the Turtles and started setting up cartoon shows and comics and movies, they brought me back in as a consultant to help them sort of guide their, the new visions of what they wanted to do and all those things. So I weirdly ended up, these days, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've spent more time on Turtles than I used to back in the early days with Pete. And, quite simply having the time of my I love working on the new cartoon show. I love working on the new IDW comic series, especially, and had a great time working with Jonathan Liebsman at Paramount on the last Turtle movie. It was a blast.
That's great. I do love your covers on the new Turtle stuff. I know we're just about out of time. I just want to ask you one quick question. I know you're more of a Raphael fan than anything else. I've loved Raphael, just the sarcasm since I was a kid, and I was curious which Turtles toys sold the most in the boom, in the heyday?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a toss-up because I think and as far as my love of the Turtles, Michelangelo was the first Turtle ever drawn, so he's always been a partial favorite to me. But I don't love any of the Turtles less than the others because it's like which child is your favorite kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
But Raphael, I love. It's like when I'm writing a story and I want to sort of take a turtle character push him into places that a little bit further than the rest. I always choose Raphael because he's the hothead. He's a little bit unpredictable, and I usually team him up with Casey Jones, who's equally unstable, I guess, if you will. And so when I tell stories, I love to team up Casey and Raphael because I can do more things with them than I can the other characters. But back in the day, I think it was if the kids were buying the Turtles, they usually wanted to get the whole team. So I know that for the most part, they sold pretty evenly, but I know Michelangelo was a huge favorite because he was always cracking the jokes and he's a funny one. But I know Raphael was right up there as one of the best sellers. Okay. But I think, we're talking probably small percentages because I think when kids bought the Turtles, they eventually want to collect all 4 so they could play with them all together in the play sets.
And that's always the goal, but sometimes you can only have one. I mean, everybody's got to kind of know one. You get one.
You want the whole superhero team, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's cool.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for the conversation, Kevin. This is actually a huge thrill for me. I really appreciate it, man.
It's been a pleasure. I'm glad it all worked out, and appreciate the time. It was a great conversation.
Thank you very much, man.
Take care, bro.
Well, there you have it. There was my interview with Kevin Eastman. It's a little bit of a short one. He was just doing a press day, so he did a bunch of interviews. We actually went over our time. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. That's a little bit longer. It's closer to 20. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Another reason why I was really happy to talk to Kevin is because I've been kind of working on a comic with a buddy of mine. I don't know. It's just about done. The first issue is just about done. It should be kind of cool to look at. I don't know. We're going to shop it around. See if it'll get made, but whatever. Real quick story that I want to tell before the end of the show. I was with Bronx Johnny last night, and we were in a Walgreens, and he got treated like a bitch. You might be hearing this already. You may have heard this story already. I don't know when this show is being released, but yeah, we were in a Walgreens, and they told him this lane is closed. He went on a long-ass line, and then they opened that line right in front of him. Just treated him like a real punk. I just thought you guys would want to know that. Bronx Johnny pussied out in a Walgreens in Times Square. What a bitch. Anyway, this has been the High Society Radio Presents the Chris from Brooklyn Bonus Content Fun Time Show. Follow the show at HS Radio Show on Twitter, High Society Radio on Instagram, Facebook.com/High Society Radio. Support the show, Patreon.com/High Society Radio. We now have stickers. We have all sorts of stuff on there. Stickers, T-shirts, High Society Radio, The Lost Tapes, the first 4 volumes. There'll be more of those coming out. I'm tracking down old shows slowly but surely, so you'll hear those. And I'm gonna go out with probably my favorite Doors song, 5 to 1, which yes, I did first originally hear as a sample on the Jay-Z song The Takeover. I don't think that's a big deal, but we usually end with Alabama song. This is my favorite Doors song. It doesn't really make sense for the end of the show, but I'll play it here. Also, in regards to that Jay-Z song, The Takeover, that's a better song than Ether. That was a diss track in response to the song Ether that Nas put out. That song, Ether, is trash. It's corny as hell. I hate that song. People love it. I think it's incredibly juvenile and stupid. So, I hate it. And I love The Takeover, and here's the song, The Takeover samples.
Come on. Love my girl. She looking good. Come on. One more. 5 to 1, baby. 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now. You get yours, baby. I'll get mine. Gonna make it, baby, if we try. We all get old and the young get stronger. May take a week and it may take longer. They got the guns, but we got the numbers. Gonna win, yeah, we're taking over. Come on! across the years. You walk across the floor with a flower in your hand, trying to tell me no one understands. Trading your hours for a handful of dimes. Gonna make it, baby, in our prime. Come together one more time. Get together one more time. Together one more time. Get together. Get together one more time. 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 Get together. Get Hey, come on, honey. Go along home and wait for me, baby. I'll be there in just a little while. You see, I gotta go out in this car with these people.